I'd like to thank I'm a veterinarian, I meant wife, Susan Downey over there. She found me a snarling rescue pet, and you love me back to life. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
And your mother's name is?
Elsie Ford.
What was your mother's profession?
Mom was an actress and a singer, comedian.
Did you grow up with siblings?
Yes, Allison, my sister.
Did your father share his movie-making experiences with you?
Oh, sure. I'm almost certain it's because it was a lot less trouble than dealing with child labor or having, we were certainly convenient. We were right there.
You mean he put you in his movie?
Oh, yeah, put us in the movie.
What was the first one?
First one that I was in was called Pound, in which all the people played dogs in a pound.
And you were a dog, too?
I was a dog. I was a puppy.
How old were you?
5. My first line of dialogue was I went up to a bald guy who was playing a Mexican hairless. And Dad whispered in my ear what I was to say, and then they said rolling, whatever that meant, and on cue when he pointed at me, I said,
"That tornado scared me so much it made my hair disappear."
Have any hair on your balls?
I love this kid. Love him.
Didn't your father introduce you to drugs?
Well, let me put it this way. It was such a permissive time, and it was that culture, and so we were not discouraged from it. So, yeah, I mean...
How old were you?
Yeah, I was probably 8, 9, 10. As I recall, I was like swinging in a hammock in East Haven, Connecticut, and Dad was lecturing at Colgate University, and there was some guy in the room, and he had a joint, and I just like put my hand out, and he came over and put it in my hand, and it was on. It was the missing ingredient for a while.
The fatal step.
I just want to say, I guarantee you, everything you need to know in life you can learn before you're 16.
How did your high school career end?
I think we were going into the summer of 11th grade, and the counselor called me in and said, look, you could be very apt here. We've got some grade problems. So this summer you'll come in and you'll do kind of summer school, and, we'll get this back going. I was like, nah, I don't really see that happening.
There's no way.
She said, let me get your father on the phone. She had no idea, like, it was the wrong dad to call to be like, here's the thing, he goes, yeah. Hi, this is Mrs. Kopechnik from San Juan. He's like, what the hell, what time is it, 10:30? Why don't you call me back at noon? See, I'm calling about your son, because we were very concerned. I told him either quit school and get a fucking job or show up every day. I was like, that's my dad.
So you left.
How often do you get to tell your high school counselor she can kiss your ass and your dad's got your back?
That is so cool.
Less Than Zero is interesting for several reasons. Some of them obvious, some not. First of all, how did you get the role of Julian?
At that point in Los Angeles, save for the fact that I wasn't a wealthy kid, I wasn't from Los Angeles, I wasn't about to start selling my ass for crack money, and I didn't drive a $60,000 Avanti. I was kind of living the lifestyle of that character, and so when I came into audition, I kind of looked like I'd just come from a nightclub.
I've read that some of the actors in the film were concerned that you were playing the part too realistically.
Live your life any way you want, but not here.
I actually researched the role of Julian for 10 years following the completion of the movie.
Was your performance unaffected by whatever you were doing at night?
Yeah, there was some concern because we'd finish doing the party club scene, and they'd be like, all right, that's a wrap, time to go home. And I'd be like, no, now it's time to do the party scene for real. And they'd be like, okay, but it's kind of an early call, but I made it.
This saga began with a routine traffic stop for speeding.
I don't know if you know what Chili Willies are, but you take them and you put them on the outside of a beer can. It was the fact that I had 3 bags of different multicolored Chili Willies in the car indicated that I'd been on some strange shopping excursion.
You received, as I recall, a suspended prison sentence.
Yeah.
For what, 3 years?
Uh-huh.
You had 3 violations of probation. And finally, Judge Mira revoked the probation, right?
Yeah.
What did that involve?
The first violation, I did 6 months, and then on the second one, he literally threw the book at me and went for the maximum sentencing allowed, which was a 3-year sentence.
How long were you actually in prison?
16 months. But, you know, that's where I think, I don't want to say that's where a sense of humor comes in handy, but, you know, I've always admired people who, you know, at the end of the day, if you're in a life-threatening and really terrible and toxic and awful and restrictive situation, what you have to do is you have to protect yourself and amuse yourself in that order. That's what I did.
When life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
When we return to the story of Robert Downey Jr., drugs land the troubled actor in prison, and he reaches out to a psychiatrist for help.
I said, Robert, I believe that you had bipolar disorder. He said, yes, I do have bipolar disorder. There are periods of times that I'm so hyper and I spend a lot of money, I'm irritable.
I don't need a discussion on the finer points of morality. Spare me!
And there are periods of times that I go down.
Has certainly been Downey's shadow. 1996, the actor violated his probation when he fled from a detox center, his rehab stemming from several drug and weapons arrests. But a judge sent him back. A year later, he skipped a court-ordered drug test and spent the next 4 months in the LA County Jail. 1999, Downey skipped another drug test and was sent back to rehab. But this time, a judge gave Downey hard time, state prison for nearly 1 year.
For past several years, he's just going through the revolving door of rehab program and being arrested, which is too sad, such a bright person, and he's not a criminal. He's a victim of the drugs.
It's easy to embrace hopelessness when things seem insurmountable, and yet it's actually just a matter of time until all of the elements come together for things to be all right. I mean, I believe that, you know, most difficult situations will resolve themselves if you are persistent and if you don't give up entirely. And that's what I never did. I never gave up.
30 years, he has struggled with a dangerous drug addiction that nearly destroyed him. And today, he says he's clean, he's in love. Do you still get urges to do drugs?
I have not even an inkling of a desire. What's humbling is to have to live your life for some reason that is yet to be explained to me by God in such a public way, when so much of it is so humiliating and embarrassing. So by the time I got into prison, it wasn't like, wow, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. You know, it was an extension of things being miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a good point. And so by the time you're in prison, that's not rock bottom for you?
Nope.
What is?
You know, I just happened to be in a situation the very last time, and I said, you know what, I don't think I can continue doing this. And I reached out for help, and I ran with it, you know, because you can reach out for help in kind of a half-assed way, and you'll get it, and you won't take advantage of it, you know. It's not that difficult to overcome these seemingly ghastly problems. What's hard is to decide.
Mel Gibson pulled Robert Downey Jr. out of a hole. Without being asked to, he arrived to save his life.
When I couldn't get sober, he told me not to give up hope, and he urged me to find my faith. Didn't have to be his or anyone else's as long as it was rooted in forgiveness. He cast me in the lead of a movie that was actually developed for him, and he kept a roof over my head, and he kept food on the table. He said that if I hugged the cactus long enough, I'd become a man of some humility, and that my life would take on a new meaning. And I did, and it worked. All he asked in return was that someday I help the next guy in some small way.
Everybody needs help sometimes.
Wake up, Daddy's home.
Welcome home, son.
Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Mr. Stark, please.
Yes, dear.
Could I have your attention?
Absolutely.
Everybody winds up, for the most part, getting the jobs they're supposed to get, and the rest of it is sour grapes and why isn't this happening for me? And I only get the stuff he turns down. It's really kind of more of a world view. And right before Iron Man and the screen test for that, there was part of me that was saying, my worldview has to change if I want to really have a shot. If I'm not on my side for this going my way, why should anybody else be? And I'm not saying that's really what made the difference, but there is a bit of destiny involved in a lot of this stuff.
So you mean you kind of willed yourself to change your attitude? You said, hey, I'm going in for an audition for this movie. I really want Iron Man. I'm going in for Favreau. I want to make sure that these guys, and fuck all the other actors and their thing. I have to come in here and make it my part. Is that what you're saying? You can't be sour grapes. You can't say, oh, woe is me.
Oh, actually, he's the boss. I just pay for everything and design everything and make everyone look cooler. Someone said to me they were watching my screen test for Iron Man or something like that, and they said, that was the direction you should have gone in. No, the direction was, I was playing it a little more straight. There weren't a bunch of funny lines, and I was probably like half out of my body hoping I got the part. A beat up, used old car there, and I was, I had the nicest suit I had to put on, but if you'd asked me how it arrived, I would have said in a convoy of Rolls Royces. No, I haven't really done it since, but for that one instant, I had to psych myself into that there was nobody else on earth had a chance. I was too prepared. I was too confident.
Was it a great audition, in your opinion?
I think obviously it went pretty well.
Oh, Mr. Stark, you have been described by some as a Da Vinci for our time. What do you have to say about that?
Da Vinci, ridiculous. I don't paint.
Oh, and what do you have to say about the fact that Stark Weapons is responsible for millions of deaths since World War II?
Oh boy, let me guess. Berkeley? Ms.
Miss Summer, and it's Brown.
Okay. Well, listen, Ms. Brown. It's an imperfect world, but it's the only one we've got. I assure you the day weapons are no longer needed to keep the peace. I'll happily transist to manufacturing bricks and beams for baby hospitals, making hemp pants and the like, but until that time, can I get you a drink?
Oh, but that's the funny thing about confidence, too, is confidence, the incorrect amount of it, and nothing will ever happen. Staying in the pocket with it for a while only lasts so long. You even have to transcend that because everyone goes like, oh man, Tony Stark is so confident and you must be that confident. And I'm like, I'm portraying someone who's a very kind of broken guy, but his facade is that he's confident. So to say that I'm just the facade is to kind of shortchange how human we all are. I am Iron Man. No problem trusting Jon Favreau. His films Zathura and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang came out on the same weekend and tanked. And I think we were both really hungry to try to reestablish ourselves as a formidable duo, albeit individually. Again, just like Attenborough, his endorsement of me to play that character. And then Kevin Feige having the wherewithal to say, okay, bit of a risk, let's do it. We like risk. Wound up being, a life-changing 15 years.
Tony,
what?
It's gonna be okay, okay? It's gonna be okay. I am gonna make this okay.
Oh, okay, you're gonna attach that to the base plate and make sure you... Is that so hard? That was fun, eh? Anytime I was with Jeff Bridges, and maybe even more so with Paltrow, you just felt that there was this chemistry where you always kind of got the definitive version of a scene, whether it was loosely scripted or a little bit more prepared. But there's a scene where he's doing a weapons test, and he says, is it better to be feared or respected? Is it too much to ask for both? And John and I were literally writing that line for line as we went along shooting it that day. And I put on sunglasses because it was all on cue cards. It was that kind of thing where you go, it's more important that we feel like we're just coming up with this and we like it, and there's no trick we can't employ to cover the fact that we're kind of making it up as we go along. But again, because you have that huge
a cluster bomb explosion in back of him because the air mover kind of pushed me forward, and it was just one of those days. There was another moment where Tony has escaped the cave and essentially become Iron Man, and he lands in this kind of crater outside the cave where he's being held. And there was a windstorm that day, and we were trying to get this take, and it was very Star Wars-esque in a way. It was very reminiscent of what John has wound up doing since with Mandalorian. And there was just this moment where it's like this storm kind of settled, and everyone kind of looked at everyone. We were like, let's get one more take, and that's the one that's in the film. So it even felt like sometimes the elements themselves were conspiring to help us do our best job. Every film is an art film if you treat it that way, and the most important films can be garbage, but it's always about teams and leadership and partnership. Also that audiences evolve really quickly. Like they'll assimilate a new kind of version of a genre, and then they'll phase out of it, and you have to keep meeting and exceeding their expectations. And I think that's where, now we're in such an interesting spot, because it's kind of like anyone's game, anticipating what audiences will respond to next. And I think it has really put the cinematic and TV community on point. I've been thinking about this recently. If I could talk back to that 17-year-old who was doing regional theater in Rochester, I would say, guess what? It's going to go pretty well. It's going to be a lot of ups and downs. I'm not going to tell you the specifics because you get too scared, but it turns out in a good place, and it never will get better than it is right now. So just appreciate where you are.